Hi Kai, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Kai-Uwe Bergmann. I'm a partner here at Bjarke Ingels Group in the New York office.
Big attracts global attention with its experimental and holistic approach to architectural practice. From your perspective, what are the principles that form the basis of the office's design approach? What is the fundamental vision that makes Big unique and distinctive in the contemporary architectural environment?
I think the question of what is at the foundation of Big is really about form giving, which is the Danish word for architecture, giving form to the future that is not yet there. So in all of our projects, I do believe that we are looking at how we actually would like to live, to work, to educate, to play in new forms of life.
Big is currently working on projects in more than 40 countries. When working in different geographical areas and cultures, what strategy do you follow to adapt your designs to the local context and culture? How do you manage to maintain Big's unique design language on a global scale?
So you actually are a great example of this, Chala. You actually know someone at Big who went to school with you in Turkey. And when you think about it, Big is really made up of about 800 architects, thinkers, landscape architects, designers. And we actually come from all of these countries that we work in around the world. So every single time that we're actually working in a location or in a new place, we look within ourselves. And if there's someone from that place, they are, of course, also working on the project. So it's a way of actually reflecting the very people who make Big.
You have been involved in the process of designing cities from scratch in projects such as Woven City and Telosa. How does your design approach evolve as you move from the building scale to the urban scale? What are the key design and planning priorities for you in such projects?
It's actually a very personal question because I was trained as an architect in school. But what I've learned since actually entering the profession is that I work a lot more on the larger or planning scale. And Big has always been working at a very large scale and also the small scale. Bjarke's, one of his first projects was actually Super Harbor, where he looked at all of the harbors in the North Sea and created or was proposing to create a harbor for all of the Northern European countries. And it's this kind of, I think, larger scale, almost utopian thinking that we bring to our planning projects. Toyota Woven City is a great example of how to move a former industrial kind of factory into a newer form of kind of urban laboratory. And so we bring all of that same thinking that we usually do at a kind of building scale, the iterative design process, to our planning projects as well.
Actually, we are curious about how your design processes are organized within your team. You work with an international team of approximately 700 people and have offices in different cities such as Copenhagen, New York, London, and Barcelona. In a structure of this scale, how do you maintain a balance between project management, coordination, and internal communication while ensuring design quality?
Well, remember, Bjarke is the creative director. And he works across all offices. So he is actually involved in all of our work through means of, sending updates or meeting with the teams, meeting the clients, going to the sites. So there is a constant in the Bjarke Ingels Groups, which is Bjarke Ingels. And then locally, we have partners that are responsible for each office. And then I think the Big DNA is what you see sort of right behind me. We really want that sort of design approach to be very visible, very accessible. So anyone in any office can actually go and see any project that's done. We have the means of actually seeing the models or understanding the designs. And so that kind of design DNA is something that we really try to bring across from one office to another. And we have larger offices like Copenhagen, New York, London. We also have smaller offices like Zurich, Los Angeles. And so whenever a new office sort of starts, it really starts with that sort of big DNA.
BIG adopts an unconventional approach to sustainability and landscape integration in architecture. For example, in the Copenhagen project, you transform a new generation waste-to-energy facility with a sky slope, walking trail, and climbing wall into an urban recreational area. Similarly, in the Mountain Dwellings project, you combine a large parking structure with a residential block, ensuring each apartment has its own private garden. In your 8 house project in Copenhagen, you also succeeded in creating an integrated, 3-dimensional neighborhood by wrapping a sloped ramp around the building, accompanied by a 1,700 square meters green roof, thereby blending the building with the landscape. Could you discuss BIG's approach to integrating sustainability into architecture and how this will evolve in future projects?
Yeah, all 3 projects that you actually mentioned, Copenhagen, the Mountain, the 8 house, they're all in Copenhagen. And they were all sort of also early projects. They integrate sort of green biophilia into the terrace landscape of the mountain or the green roof of the 8 house and the rewilding of the energy plant. Bjarke would, and has often said that our sustainability idea is called hedonistic sustainability. This is the idea that sustainability is something that doesn't mean less of something. It can actually mean that there's a more enjoyment, there's a better and higher quality of life through being more energy conscious and using our resources in a more efficient way. So it's really about creating, I think, again, this idea of what is the future of an energy plan? What is the future of living? And trying to combine things that are not necessarily the things that you expect, a parking garage and 80 housing units. But because of the design of the housing on top of the parking and the way that the parking ramps, it suddenly creates 80 very beautiful units that all have very generous views and generous light coming in. So I find that, we integrate sustainability not as something that is added on at the end, but it's integrated into the full concept. And you can see it at every level, from the massing of a project all the way to the detailing. The sustainability concept is actually worked all the way through.
Following the devastating earthquake we experienced in 2023, many cities in southern Turkey were severely damaged. The contribution of international architectural firms in the reconstruction process is extremely valuable to us. BIG is one of the teams involved in the reconstruction of Hatay. What stage is the project currently at, and what architectural approach are you taking?
We're focusing actually on a site that's very central to the city. And the Turkish Design Council invited us to come with ideas. So these ideas have been presented. As recently as last week, we actually met with the city and the municipality. And it's a process of negotiation. So I think the concept is there and has been presented as a public realm kind of gift back to the city as the city builds back. And one should always have, should always think about the public realm. If you think of New York, you think of Central Park. And New York without Central Park would be a completely different city. So in many ways, we are trying to offer and bring a little bit of Central Park public realm as a gift back to the city.
What are your observations about the architectural scene in Turkey? Would you like to work on other projects in Turkey in the future?
I think I've been traveling through Turkey since I was in my early 20s, and I traveled all the way across
Please come again.
to Iskenderun in Antakya. I've seen Fethiye. I've been to Göreme, to of course Bodrum and the whole Blue Coast, and Istanbul many times. For me, Turkey is a cradle of civilization. It is also where past empires, both Ottoman, Roman, have existed, and you can see all of those layers when you go to the different sites in the different cities. And it is an incredible also place for spirituality, and where families really matter. And so I think we as Big have been interested in very, looking for opportunities in Turkey since we first started the office. I traveled there actually to meet Superpool, the architects who are both a Danish founder and a Turkish founder who married and then created an office. So that's like a perfect partner for a Danish office and for thinking about the future of Turkey. We've also, of course, been very involved with the Turkish Design Council. We've been there many times also for speaking engagements and conferences. So I don't see our connection to Turkey being any different. We would really be excited for any opportunity to come back.
Great. It's great to hear that from you.
Let me also say one other office that I really admire in Turkey. So Meliha Alsanik, who has made the wonderful communications tower, is someone that I think is really a next generation rising star globally for architecture. And so she's been kind enough to actually come visit here in New York and actually meet students that I was teaching. So there's another office, another creative mind that I think brings a lot to the conversation of architecture.
She's graduated London AA school, I think. I remember like that. She's approach similar like to Zaha did actually.
Where she worked for some time.
Yeah.
But I think she actually elevates what Zaha has done and actually is able to find her own voice in the communications tower and elsewhere.
Another question is that Big has grown from a small team to a multidisciplinary organization operating on a global scale in just 20 years. How does working with a powerful figure such as Bjarke Ingels create balance within the organization and influence your partnerships?
Bjarke very much is traveling around to all of the offices and meeting with all of us.
A huge effort.
Yeah, and so I think that there is the personal connection that Bjarke has with the whole, at every level. But I think it's also one where there is a lot of shared kind of values. So he also is able to acknowledge and provide autonomy to each one of us. So any and all the partners can actually do what we do very to our best. And that's the kind of environment that we've created.
In the context of projects such as the Big U in Manhattan and Superkillen in Copenhagen, how do you assess architecture's power to make cities more resilient and inclusive?
So this is a model showing the Big U, and this is 10 miles of coastal protection in Manhattan. We have already actually built and completed phase 1 of the east side. This is currently under construction. That's the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. And then it wraps around the tip of New York and back up on the west side. And we're currently working from Battery Park City for another 1.5 miles. So this is a great example of the social infrastructure projects where we're integrating human kind of design elements into what is typically engineering. Yeah, there's not so many buildings. It's more of a public realm, and we're raising the edge of Manhattan by 8 feet. And so that's going to protect against the sea level rise in the future. And similar to the sort of the shocks of the earthquake in Turkey, New York received the shock of flooding. And so there were 200,000 people homeless, about $70 billion of damage, 20 billion of which were here in New York. And so this is about a sort of 15 years now of working towards improving and protecting the city. So I think in Turkey, it's a similar 15, 20-year commitment to helping the the victims of the earthquake also reconnect and
it works
build
very
back.
well.
Yep.
Yeah. What strategy do you follow to get design ideas accepted by public authorities or employers for radical projects such as Copenhagen?
It takes both a creative designer. It also requires a creative client, someone who can see that the project actually brings value and maybe in ways that they weren't even expecting. Copenhagen needed to have the client representative on the energy plant. Without her, I don't think there could be a Copenhagen. So it required exactly the person that could see that building a ski slope on top of a power plant is not a crazy idea. It actually would create a really a win-win for the city of Copenhagen. And that is what you have to look for as well, are creative clients who are not afraid of risk.
Yeah, exactly. How do you integrate new technologies and artificial intelligence into your design processes? What impact do you anticipate these digital tools will have on the future of architecture?
We have been integrating new tools, computer tools, really since I was in school back in the 1980s. AutoCAD, similarly, was the first time that there was computer drafting.
Yeah.
And I think that we're at that same point now, that there are a lot of new tools. We're experimenting with 30 or 40 different AI tools at the moment for rendering, for animation, for documentation, execution. So it's really about testing. It's about learning. And then you will find the right tools for your work.
Do you have a project scale, function, or context that you have been thinking about for a long time but have not yet implemented? What are big news focus areas or experimental directions for the coming period?
It's a good question for me because I'm always thinking about the next project. We are about to start a project that I think we're very, very excited about, which is to literally create a university from scratch. So it's a university that is going to focus on science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So a STEM university. And we're looking at creating the housing, the student center, the classrooms, the professors where they live, dining, so, recreation, everything that you would find in a university setting, we're designing from the very, very beginning. So that's a huge responsibility as well. And I think that will be something that we look forward to in the next couple of years. And then another one is also a university project, Kansas University. We are just now starting and hopefully soon starting construction on the largest, most ambitious timber frame educational building that uses no steel. So just the wood construction by itself in a sort of Japanese joinery sort of way. So these are projects that really give me great hope that we can actually contribute also to the future and also to the conversation about how we build in the future.
And thank you so much for this interview. And it's a huge honor also for me. And thank you.
Of course, Chala. It was my pleasure.